And when the dream strips you of your North American title, the world will see why you just don't measure up.
Welcome to Discover Progress, the podcast that used to be about progress wrestling, but now one of us just doesn't measure up. Chuckle, chortle. We're here to talk. I think this week we just got we didn't watch any. We've covered Progress.
We watched the Adrian Street documentary.
We did.
Which was good.
It was good. If you got the network, you should check it out. It's only 20-some minutes.
It's short.
It's pretty short. But also, the thing about that, though, is remember going back when I think it was after TakeOver Cardiff or before TakeOver Cardiff, one of the two, you asked, your question of the day was number of Welsh wrestlers in the WWE. It didn't count Adrian Street.
Well, we didn't know he was a coach at the time.
No, but because the question was how many people from Wales have been in the WWE, and so we didn't get him. And then it also, though, said Bad News Barrett was Welsh, and he's not. So it was your source. We knew your sources were wrong anyway. But
yes.
We did watch that. And if you got the network, look it up. It's worth it. It's good. It's a good little lunch break watch, I think is fair to say.
Yeah. Depending
on how long your lunch breaks are. But we are going to talk about something in particular that I wanted to talk about with this week. Of course, now we're week 2 into AEW and NXT going head-to-head. That's kind of dominated, especially on Twitter anyways, wrestling talk, I've noticed. But what I wanted to talk about before we get into something specific is the other thing that dominated wrestling Twitter this week, and we don't ever do this, or not very often anyways. It's been a while, but I want to talk about something on the main roster really quick. I know, I apologize, but I'm sure he's dead. He did. All right, show over. Peace. You can follow us. Oh, speaking of, we should do that. Before we get into that, you can follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter, both being at Disc Progress. Of course, Instagram being The Adam Show.
That's me.
And Twitter being The David Show, which is
you.
Me, yeah. And you can find us wherever you find podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you want to go look up podcasts. You can find us. But what I wanted to talk about really quick, of course, is the finish to Hell in a Cell.
Oh.
And how I really think people need to quit being such bloody whiners.
They want instant gratification. It's the era of instant gratification.
Sure, I don't know if that's actually what it is, though. I think it's the era of, and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people, it's the era of wrestling fans thinking they know what's best for business every single turn of the page.
Yes.
And here's the thing.
Like us. Wait.
Yeah. And in saying that, I'm going to say that but here's the thing. So I watched, the only thing I watched on that show was the main event.
Yeah.
And that's because going on Twitter, I saw people going nuts, going off about how this is a travesty, basically. Of course, it's a Hell in a Cell match. It ends in a no contest. Now, initially, people were all like, oh, it was a DQ. There's no DQ in Hell in a Cell matches, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. I had the benefit of watching it after the fact, knowing that it wasn't going to be a finish that people were expecting. But I actually thought it was kind of neat. The only complaint I had was the stupid red lighting that they used for the whole match.
Yeah.
Even, I watched it with my daughter, and she was, my oldest, and she was like, it looks stupid. I was like, yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? I know some people liked it, but whatever. But the way that match went, I actually thought it was the most unique story WWE has told in a match, in a progressing story in quite some time.
Right.
They did something different, and people shat all over it because A, they wanted Bray to have the belt.
Yeah.
And B, I think what they tried to pinpoint that on their displeasure was the fact that because people were booing, the crowd was starting to boo when Seth started hitting his stomps.
Yeah.
And like repeatedly, they're like, oh, Bray's not going to win. Mind you, he kept kicking out and he looked like an absolute monster. And then I feel like a lot of people like to pin it on like, oh, there's not supposed to be DQ in Hell in a Cell matches, blah, 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 which in the end, it wasn't a disqualification. But that wasn't clear right away either, right? Like the way they handled that.
Yeah.
But I think they actually told an interesting story with what was going on in the match, making Bray look like an absolute monster. And then at the same point, you could see the whole point was that he got into Seth's head. The ref is even like, don't do it before the sledgehammer shot, right? Does the sledgehammer shot, that's when the ref calls it because he realizes Bray's not going to lose or is not going to stay down. Yeah. Seth's basically going to have to kill the guy to get him to stay down.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Hits him with the sledgehammer, which obviously would have killed any mere mortal, but not the Fiend. And then in the end, the Fiend gets up, puts the mandible claw on, and actually like destroys Seth.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
leaves him laying in a pool of his own blood, a la American History X.
Yeah, and then everyone's like, well, then don't make it a title match if because the other side of that coin is people saying Bray shouldn't be concerned about the belt with that character. The Fiend shouldn't be concerned. And I kind of agree. I actually thought it would be entertaining, though, if eventually he does win the belt and acts like it just becomes a prop on Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah.
He never comes out with it because he doesn't actually care.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually he does lose.
The only time he brings it out is when he has to defend it.
No, he doesn't even bring it out then. Like, he just whatever. And then, he eventually he somehow loses it. Like, say you put him in a match where if he gets disqualified because he's been going crazy, he loses it or whatever, right? And gets disqualified. You know what I mean? Like, you could build him like a ridiculous monster. But the absolute, like, people just, like, spitting venom and being like, cancel the WWE network, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, guys, ladies, you
chill
look
out.
It's not a good look. And then, like, to the point where, and I don't know if I say give them credit or not, but that WWE, I guess, issued a statement and said, like, okay, we got it wrong. I don't think they did. I think
no.
The backlash was dumb. But anyway.
It's as well, one thing I've noticed is people are very short-sighted when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah.
In general, like, you don't see the bigger picture. If you think that's the end to the Seth Fiend thing, it's not.
I mean,
we're probably going to get another match.
Maybe, or it could be because the Fiend doesn't need to care about the belt, right? Like, you could have that where he's like, okay, I disposed of him. The only thing I was disappointed with is that he didn't come out with a lantern that had Finn's head.
That would have been awesome.
or like the demon specifically, but I guess he didn't beat the demon, but because like that would have been great. But
he's just decapitating people and taking their heads and turning them into
like,
lanterns.
But how is he on NXT?
Yeah.
he has no head.
Well, speaking of which, completely ruined our theory that Finn would come back and beat the Fiend for the belt eventually.
Maybe not, though.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, if WWE actually long plays a story.
The draft is happening.
Yeah, but don't do that right away. That's not long playing a story. Like, literally long play that story because the Fiend doesn't even have the belt right now.
That's right.
And, maybe that's something that eventually happens. Maybe he has another match with Seth. Who knows? I don't really care if he has another match with Seth. I thought what they did was actually kind of cool and different. And it is what it is. But there was something else I was going to say, but I forget what it is that was in relation to that. So we will move on and we'll talk about this week. So week 2 of NXT and AEW specifically going head to head. And I had like a realization of something. The thing I like about AEW in the 2 weeks that I've watched, and I mean, I've watched the other shows as well leading into it, like the pay-per-views or whatever. The thing I like about AEW, though, on the weekly show is that it feels like a big show.
Right.
Because it is. Like, they're in venues that are much larger than what NXT is in. And they make the matches for the most part. Like, we skipped through. I didn't watch the entirety of Dynamite. We skipped through and kind of picked some matches here and there to watch. Yeah. And it feels big, and they make the matches kind of, because of that, feel bigger. But my one concern with that is that either A, it's going to make their pay-per-views feel way less important, or B, their pay-per-views are always going to have to be enormous and that's going to be exhausting.
Yeah.
Like when your week to week feels as big as, and I understand we're only in week 2. Like it's still, we can't actually judge this until we're months down the road, really.
Yeah.
But it feels big. And with NXT, what I liked about this week was the fact that it was a show that felt like NXT. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like a 2-hour version of what we've come to know and love on the network over the last number of years. But it was 2 hours and it was live. And I mean, I didn't watch it live, but I liked that it felt familiar and comfortable. And I mean, we did have one title match, obviously, which there's a new Cruiserweight champion. Hooray. The man of the hour.
He came to collect.
I thought I was a little bit disappointed because when it came out after that match, when he's in the ring and Regal was holding the belt, I thought, are they gonna give us a new belt?
No.
Because why was he out there?
Right.
He's not out there any other time. Why was he out there?
Proud of Leo.
Yeah, which is fine, but I thought, I was like, oh, this could be great because they've changed that. They now call it the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, but it's still clearly the same belt that says WWE on it. I feel like we're gonna get a new belt.
I think so.
They've renamed it, and I thought, oh, is he gonna just unveil it here? But
and it was weird because normally when the former champ, does the grudging respect, he doesn't have to turn the new champ around and rip the belt off of him.
Yeah. It was
he
kind of...
takes the belt and then gives it to him.
And I thought for a second, because, Gulak comes back in the ring and he takes the belt off him. I thought for a second he was going to put it on.
I thought so, too.
Kushida.
I thought he was going to turn him around and put it back
neat,
on.
But he just instead hands it back to him.
Very roughly, too.
He shoves it on his shoulder, basically. I think I just said Kushida, by the way, but it wasn't Kushida. It was Leo Rush. Kushida's in a fantastic main event, though. But
they bookends the show very well.
Yeah, and he kind of shoves it back onto Leo's shoulder, and then Regal puts it on, and then Leo immediately takes it off to hold it up. I was like, what was the point? Just shake his hand.
Are they trying to be more like UFC, where it's
I don't know.
Someone putting a belt on him?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't recall Regal being out there when Roddy won the North American Championship.
It's weird.
Yeah, it was strange, especially when Leo took it off again.
Yeah.
Immediately. He put it on, and then Leo immediately took it off so he could hold it up when he stood on the turnbuckles in the corner. It was a strange sequence, but at the same point Leo's a deserving champ. I found myself during that match, I always wanted Gulak to win that belt.
Yeah, and he did.
And he did.
And he represented that belt with...
It was great. But during this match,
well.
For sure, I was like, oh, I want Leo to win. And when he hit the frog splash, because he did two. He did an RVD type where he turned in midair to hit one, which was very awesome. And then shortly after that, he hit his actual final hour. Mm-hmm. And when he popped up, he does this little leg kick. It's because he hits it and he pops up and he's feet are in the air and he kicks his legs to get over. And I thought, oh no. He's bounced himself off and out of the way. He's gonna, you're gonna have that
Gulak's
hesitation.
Grab him and,
or the hesitation where Gulak will be able to kick out because it was just that extra second. But no, he gets back pretty quick for the cover for the win.
Yeah.
I was like, sweet, I appreciate this. I've always liked Leo Rush, and I was a little bit bummed when he was main rostering and just being a mouthpiece for Bobby Lashley. He's a great mouthpiece. Don't get me wrong.
He can talk. He can go.
He can talk, but he can wrestle just as fine as he can talk. He's one of the funnest guys to watch in the ring.
Yeah.
And now he's
Gulak's had
Cruiserweight champ.
4 matches in NXT, and out of the 4, he's shaken 3 of his opponent's hands.
So he's doing this for sure doing this respect thing, right? Where he's he respects a good competitor, which I think is great. I loved the Kushida matches that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved though with the Kushida matches, he was going back to that, he says, we're both submission specialists, and you pinned me.
Yeah.
And
you rolled me up.
Yeah, he rolled me up. Let's have a submission match, and then shook his hand after that.
Let's have a real match.
Yeah, and they were both great matches.
And then the Matt Riddle one.
Yeah, it was the Matt Riddle. Oh, that was on Evolve, wasn't it? Or
no,
did they have
NXT,
one on NXT? Because did they fight on that Evolve show too?
I believe so. Yeah.
I'm trying to think who Drew Gulak fought. I think it was.
he fought Tozawa for the belt.
No. Adam Cole fought Tozawa.
Oh yeah.
For the NXT championship.
No, it was Riddle versus. Yeah. But the belt wasn't on the line.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally.
But then they did the catch point.
Yeah, which was great.
Handshake.
I would we were kind of talking, or you had mentioned it about forming a stable with Gulak.
Yeah.
And I would I'd be down with him and Riddle, kind of getting back together, and then you could throw Kushida in there.
Just these like amazing submission guys.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about AEW in their weekly show, and then NXT is that so with AEW the show feels so much bigger because it is bigger, but at the same point, the one thing I love about NXT is their ability week in and week out to deliver a main event that's main event worthy. Because watching the AEW main event, I was like, tag match, and nothing against tag matches. That's not what I'm saying, but it was just like, it was a very typical WWE tag match, right? Like, you've got, I guess Jericho is fighting Cody Rhodes for the belt. Well, technically he's fighting Darby Allin next.
Yes, next week.
Right. But like the story, and that was the one thing I was like, why is this a thing? Your story is clearly Jericho and Cody Rhodes, and then you're like, let's have a number one contenders match in the meantime for someone who's obviously going to lose to Jericho.
Yeah.
Like, why bother? Now, having said that...
What if he wins?
He won't. But having said that, it was obvious that Kushida wasn't going to beat Walter on NXT this week. But why... I think it's just more with the title picture thing. Why bother having this match in between when your target is Cody Rhodes?
Yeah.
The flip side of that is then if you're not going to have that, you're just going to get stuck in the WWE mold where it's like, you're just going to either they're going to fight 1,000 times between now and whatever the pay-per-view is.
Or the belt's never going to get defended.
Or
until the pay-per-view.
and I mean I'm kind of okay with it not necessarily being defended, but or it's just going to be a series of run-ins, which is what this is. Like AEW, their first 2 weeks have ended the same way, and it's stupid.
The Elite and the Inner Circle.
And it's just, that was one thing. Friggin' Jericho goes out there.
Him and his bestest friends ever.
Yeah, I was so annoyed with this. So Jericho goes out, cuts a promo, and in that promo, he talks about, these people are being the closest people, the closest he's ever been to anybody.
Yeah.
Horseshit. And everybody knows it, right?
Yeah.
Like, why bother trying to sell that? That may have worked back in the day before things like social media and wrestling everywhere. But it's like, you don't need to say that, right? Like, and it just makes you sound dumb. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was so dumb. And then I did get entertainment out of the crowd chanting "We the People" for Jake Hager.
Yeah.
And then Jericho absolutely shutting it down, being basically like that gimmick is dead and buried. It was a stupid idea
creative.
From dumb creative, like bad creative or whatever. But so what I thought was funny is like, hey, okay, I like shutting it down. I don't think it'll actually shut it down.
No.
Wrestling fans need to keep it going. But when he says like his stupid idea from bad creative, and then I just thought it was great when he's like, and I say that sarcastically, when he's like, we are the Inner Circle. I was like, you just judged, you called WWE creative bad, which is not wrong.
Yeah.
But then the best you can come up with is the Inner Circle. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the name or the explanation. These are my closest people ever.
And Jake Hager.
You're an idiot. Yeah, Jake Hager's the only one believable that could be, for me anyways, that could be close to Jericho. They worked for a number of years together. Not to say that, Jericho had never run into Ortiz and Santana or even Sammy Guevara. Like, maybe, but I can guarantee you they're not the closest to you. And
they're not the bestest of friends.
No, it just annoyed me. And it's probably like a nitpicky thing where I'm just like, can we like get past that a little bit?
Yeah.
With like trying to explain things. You're just a group of guys who want to take down the Elite. That's enough of a reason to be a stable, right? Like to be like, these guys think they run the show. They think this is their show.
Right.
Thanks for giving us a contract, Tony Khan, but we're here to take your boys down, right? Like that. That's enough of a
just wrote a better promo than Jericho delivered.
It's just people were like losing their mind over the promo, and I think it literally boiled down to the jab at WWE, right?
Yeah.
Like because marks will mark out, and it's fine. I thought it was funny. At the same point, Chris Jericho goes on Bleacher Report and is like, "Oh yeah, we're not competing." But yet every damn week you get out there on the show or in your social media or whatever, and you're friggin' poking the
WWE.
bear. Yeah, I'm like, if you're not competing, why bother acknowledging them in such direct ways as you do, right? Like, obviously, you can acknowledge, if you have a guy who's been in WWE, for instance, you can acknowledge the fact that, he's been a world champ or whatever, right? Like, which they've done, because WWE will do the same thing. I mean, we'll see if a guy, if someone, jumps from AEW to NXT or WWE or whatever, if that ever gets referenced, like if he was ever a champ or faced someone or whatever. I don't know that it will, but I mean, they'll acknowledge when someone's won a championship somewhere else in the world. They won't necessarily say where that was, but they'll mention that they were, they've won a belt or whatever.
Champion in Japan, multi-time champion in Japan.
Yeah, whatever the case
Styles,
may be.
Shinsuke.
Yeah, but it's so. I just hate if they would just flat out say, get on a microphone and be like, yes, we are competing with WWE, with NXT. We want to take them down. Just friggin' say it.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh no, this isn't what we're
we're
doing.
all friends here.
Because the problem is what I hate about it is when they say this, we're not competing, is it leaves the door open for when they potentially eventually lose in the ratings.
Yeah.
Potentially. Who knows if that happens. Then they can always, we're not in competition.
Yeah.
We're not competing with them. But yet every week you go out there and you're like, well, got to
make
poke the
snide
bear.
remarks about it.
Yeah, it's kind of it gets a little tiring, and it's funny that Jericho is feuding with Cody Rhodes because they're very much playing the same cards right now.
Yeah.
When there's a mic in front of them, and I'm like, it gets annoying. Like if you want to just be an alternative, be an alternative. Mm-hmm. You don't need to. I don't think you need to like go that route. And I don't know. Like I enjoyed this week. I thought NXT for sure delivered the better main event.
Yes.
Because they actually delivered a match that I was like, I really want to see this. Mm-hmm. Instead of, what did we have? We had Adam Page and Dustin Rhodes against Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. Jack Hager.
With Jake Hager. The one thing I will say about AEW is like, I actually have come to like Sammy Guevara. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he's a guy who's worth watching. And then also going back to where I said earlier, two of my favorites fighting each other for the chance to lose to Jericho, Darby Allin and
Jimmy Havoc.
And Jimmy Havoc, like, I mean, out of those two, I like Darby Allin more. I think, I mean, his style is more exciting, but I mean, I will always love Jimmy Havoc and his ability to tell stories and cut promos and whatnot. But Darby Allin's just a friggin' like.
He's a machine.
He's just crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and the fact that he's now hit his coffin drop a couple times.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And not through a barrel.
Not through a barrel, not to the ring apron. That was the most ridiculous one against, I think it was Cody. Tried to deliver.
They show the highlight of that.
Like how he didn't like break his back. I'll never know. But I don't know. That was just like my big annoyance and takeaway from the week is like, you guys are still doing it. You're still saying we're not competing. And then here you are.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Or like Tony's comment of, this is where you go to fall in love with wrestling again.
Was it Tony that said that?
Yeah, it was Tony.
And one of my big takeaways from these first 2 weeks of the head-to-head stuff is I really want an announced team of Morrow, Nigel, and Excalibur. Because like I have my main argument against AEW's announced team, Excalibur is fantastic.
Yeah.
Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone, as nostalgic as they are, and they do a fine job, there's a lot of talking over each other. I feel there's not really any
chemistry,
well-defined roles.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like, I think in our interview with MRB a number of episodes ago, I think he said like he thought there was well-defined roles, but I don't think there are. Like there's especially now that like JR and Schiavone, I'm like they're basically one and the same.
Yeah, they did the same jobs.
Yeah, Excalibur. I mean, he's like his role is defined in the sense that he's the wrestler who knows, who can give you insight into things. But at the same point, he's still very much they're all doing play by play, and it's just like it gets a little bit annoying where on NXT, like with Morrow, Nigel, and then Beth, their roles are defined in the sense that Morrow is the play by play guy.
Yeah,
Nigel is the guy who'll give you color with a slight heel tinge.
Yeah.
Because he'll go either way, which is what I love about Nigel. And then Beth is, I mean, more your typical babyface color.
And she'll tell you about, like, this is why this move hurts.
And Nigel will do that,
Nigel
too.
can also do that, though, which
what
is nice.
I do love and appreciate about Beth, though, I noticed this week, is she actually comes forward more when it's women's division matches.
Yeah.
she calls a lot more. I noticed like through the show, I was like, it felt like she was not saying as much. And then there were a few women's matches on NXT this week, and she definitely like stepped up in being like that more like, okay, Morrow's the number one, here I'm the number two. Mm-hmm. And then with the other matches, it was more Morrow being number one, Nigel being number two. So, but yeah, an announced team of Morrow, Nigel, and Excalibur would be great, or even just Morrow and Excalibur. But I love Nigel, so I'm like,
Nigel's great.
Yeah, I could have Nigel in there any day.
Speaking of Nigel, new announced team, NXT UK.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Vic
Nigel's
Joseph
not
got
new.
stolen away.
Yeah, Vic's on Raw now, so... And I don't know, he didn't say if this was like the permanent thing or if he was in the meantime, but it was Tom Phillips and Nigel.
Yeah.
Which had they...
Tom Phillips has officially been on every single WWE show as an announcer now.
Yeah, so is Vic, though. Oh, I guess Vic hasn't done SmackDown, but he has been on NXT, NXT UK, 205, Raw. Yeah. But was Tom on Raw?
Yep.
When was Tom on Raw?
He was on Raw. He got moved off of Raw they moved, changed everything when they moved SmackDown.
No, who was doing SmackDown then?
Tom.
He wasn't on Raw.
He was on both.
No, you're full of shit.
Tom was on both.
No way. He was the SmackDown lead. Cole was the Raw lead. Corey Graves was on both.
Corey Graves was on both.
Never makes sense.
Tom was on Raw. Tom has been on Raw.
Nah. Maybe filling in.
But he's been on Raw.
But yeah, no, Tom Phillips on NXT UK. Although they sounded weird, there was some deal with their mics for this taping. That's the one thing. I thought
because I was watching it on a laptop and I had it on like a platform, and the speakers are kind of low on my laptop.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just getting muffled by like the blanket I had it laying on.
It was because I watched it on my TV. And I was like, what is with
this
the voices?
Muffled.
Well, was it muffled for me, or if it was just more? I mean, it could have been some muffling on your laptop, but his voice was like compressed really weird.
Oh yeah,
and
they were there though.
They were there. Yeah,
that was nice. I like that.
Yeah, they've been there forever now. It was only I think the first one or two tapings
where they were in front of the logo.
Yeah, where it might have been up to the first takeover, and then once that first takeover, they're like, oh, let's just.
Have those,
and I mean,
everyone else is there. You might as well send Nigel.
You get like a month or two worth of
shows at a time.
Out of one, so it's like you can fly someone in, fly two people in to come do it. But yeah, he was on NXT UK, and it sounded weird. But that's the one thing I've disliked about NXT UK is that their sound almost changes from venue to venue. But it's the things that shouldn't change.
Yeah,
like
the announce team.
Yeah, he literally has a mic that's right in front of his. There's no reason. Now it could have just been like getting used to Tom Phillips and not EQing him properly sort of deal. But I also thought the crowd sounded weird. Like it was just the mix was kind of strange. But yeah, it was, I mean, and this week's NXT UK was okay. I'm trying to think like the main event, Rhea Ripley and Imperium can both time travel.
Yeah.
Teleport. Yeah, not time travel. They can teleport because they were both on NXT live and then NXT UK.
Also live.
And I thought, it was weird because I was like, okay, Rhea is clearly on NXT now.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is where she's going. And then so I was like, oh, she must be done on NXT UK. Nope.
She showed up.
She came out and kicked Jazzy's face off, and then her and Piper kind of had a look over at each other and like a knowing sort of like glance or whatever, like, yep. We don't like this.
We
don't like these
now.
people. Yeah, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Is that right? Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of like half watched NXT UK because there wasn't really any matches on that one that I was super looking forward to. We did get announced that we got a tag title match next week. I think.
Yes.
That? Gallus against. South Wales Subculture, still one of the worst
Wales'
names.
favorite sons.
Yeah, it's just terrible
Darling
names.
Sons or whatever.
Just terrible names. Flash Mandrews.
Flash Mandrews.
That sounds terrible. Don't Flash
That's
Mandrews.
worse.
I mean, maybe he likes that. I don't know.
Maybe he does. They should just call themselves FSU.
Yeah, that'll go over really well. And by that, no. But what else? What else did we get? Well, Jordan Devlin came out. He had a match.
He had a good match
against Jack Stars.
Yeah, and Jack Stars took it to him though.
Yeah,
for once. Normally he just gets swatted around.
I feel like Jack Stars usually gets a little bit of offense in,
unless you're Walter.
He
just mangled poor Jack.
Yeah.
No, that was the most. I think to date, that was the most offense I've seen Jack get in
It's
a
possible.
match.
Which is funny because it was Devlin in the ring. I was only half paying attention. And so what are they doing with Devlin? Because last we saw he was cutting off Tyler Bate, and I thought that's for sure what was next. And then he's cuts a promo at the end of this match, and Mastiff cuts him on. And Mastiff had a match right after that, but he calls him out. He's like, "What?"
Which actually, I think Mastiff and Williams is probably the best match of the night.
Yeah,
it was
probably
a really good match.
Kenny Williams puts on a good show every time. I mean, even though 9.5 times out of 10 he's going to lose.
But he makes you look good doing it.
Yeah, or he makes himself look good.
He makes himself. He's the Oni Lorcan.
Yes, I was going to say Kenny Williams could very well be the Oni Lorcan. Oni Lorcan won himself over though with just like
ferocity,
just insanity.
Yeah,
like all of a sudden he'd get his offense and just like grabbing a guy by the chin, by the jaw,
slapping
him. People are like, "Oh, it's amazing!" Yeah. But
that and making Hideo Itami.
Destroying his face.
Yeah, he broke his nose.
But the funny thing was because they if I remember correctly,
then they had a match the next week.
No, I think it was later in that show.
And Hideo just murdered him.
They stopped the match because of that, and then later in the show, they actually had their match, which was kind of funny. But it was this week's NXT UK was. It's funny because watching it, watching AEW and then NXT, it's definitely in its own place right now, right? It's not trying to compete with either of those, which it's never going to try and compete with NXT.
Yeah.
But so they're not like ramping things up in that sense, and it almost kind of feels a little bit like this. Okay, I feel like I can sit back and relax a little.
It's a much calmer feeling show.
Yeah. With the
and
benefit
maybe
of
it's
having
the
a British office, the UK audience, right?
Yeah.
The crowd getting into it. But
it was very entertaining.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as things go, I'm still the thing I did like about this week's NXT, like I said though, was it felt more like
NXT.
What we've come to know and love of NXT, just twice as long.
Yeah.
It was funny because I noted, I was like, man, it seems like there's a lot of talking on this show. Now, most of them were like short promos, but you had a number of like post-match promos and stuff like that going on and whatnot. How did we not talk about Velveteen Dream? How did we not talk about that? Considering I referenced it at the very top of the show, but that was
Cole giving a shout out to Swerve.
That
was nice.
It was so great though because like Adam Cole comes out after the Roderick Strong Isaiah Scott match, and I didn't even pick up on it, but he said the word dream at some point, and then all of a sudden, did someone say dream? Velveteen Dream is on the screen. He goes, did he then say dream over and snap? He says something anyways and snaps, and the lights go out, and then the lights come on.
And he's up on the pillar.
Yeah, but the lights come on in the ring onto Undisputed Era, and then he's off to the side or whatever, and then he cuts a promo directed at Roderick Strong. Yeah, on that little stage thing that they've got.
Yeah.
Cuts the promo directed at Roderick Strong, basically being like, I'm coming for your North American Championship. At first I was like, what is happening? Like, is he now also throwing his hat in? Because Cole was the one talking, throwing his hat in the ring to fight Cole. And
he wants his title.
He wants his North American title back, which was great. But then, like, the whole thing he cuts and shows the picture of Roderick Strong, who Roderick Strong is super proud. You can see in the ring of the picture where he's like Shawn Michaels back in the day. He's stretched out on the couch, absolutely naked, with the belt covering his junk,
his bits.
But so fantastic when Dream basically says, after I strip you of the title, you will all know you don't measure up or whatever, and then snaps again and it changes the photo. There's no title, just a blurred, censored spot of a very small area of Roderick Strong. I was like,
very good.
Well done. It was very like on edge for anything that WWE has done as far as like that kind of content is concerned in quite some time.
But the trials and tribulations of Undisputed didn't end there.
Right. And that's where I was like,
Dream took off, and then Ciampa came out.
Yeah, Ciampa comes, and I was like, are we booking the shit out of this segment or what?
Yeah.
Because then I was kind of like, is Finn's music going to hit once Ciampa's
Finn
done?
was going to come out, or Johnny was going to come
and
out.
There was no Finn this week at all. There was like a little vignette.
Yeah.
But there was no Finn at all this week. But which is fine. So I don't know, like, is Finn a part of that triangle? Because he came out and interrupted Cole last week.
Or was he just being cheeky Finn and interrupting
and
Cole?
Being like, oh, by the way, I'm here.
Yeah, because I get a bigger pop than you, Cole.
Yeah. Which they would probably be
that's
competing
pretty
on a similar level.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, the things are heating up as far as the title is concerned. And
Daddy's home.
Daddy's home. We also get Rhea Ripley and Bianca, looks like.
It's looking like in a couple weeks, I imagine.
Think that'll be a good match.
Ciampa makes his debut next week.
Yeah, because there was a little run-in with Angel Garza backstage where Angel, like, up one side of him, down the other in Spanish, and then Ciampa just hits him. And what's her...
Charlie, I think.
Charlie?
Kathy
Kelly?
or Kathy Kelly or Charlie.
Yeah, I can never remember her name, but backstage, she says, "What did he say?" I have no idea. And then just walks away. Yeah, that was good. That was good. But we also get our fourth match between Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic next week, which we know it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be ridiculous.
I hope it opens the show.
Yeah. I mean,
because no Dream and Roddy's next week.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks.
That might be the main event.
It'll probably be the main event.
Might be the main event.
It'll be.
Do you think Imperium's going to come out and cause problems for them?
Maybe, but why would they?
I don't know.
They have. I think we're going to see Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic become buddies.
Well, yeah, but I'm like they need a catalyst, right?
Maybe
for that. So they need.
But why
like
Imperium would come out, I'm not sure.
Because they don't respect the mat isn't sacred enough to them.
Really?
I don't know. That's usually what they go with.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't know what their actual argument would be in that sense. Why are they not respect? You big men should not do that.
Yeah, you stop that. You wrestle like him.
Yeah, you wrestle like Walter, whose biggest like high flying move is a splash. Classic, but
very classic.
Maybe I don't know. I think that
it's going to be a good match.
Yeah,
regardless.
Yeah, it should be a good match.
Eyes peeled, guys. And
well, we know it'll be a good match. They've had three
of them.
Ridiculous matches already.
It's 1-1-1.
There was a stretch in between the first one and the second one due to injury, but they've had 3 great matches. So good. And I'm glad they didn't give up on that story. Mm-hmm. Because of the injury. Like,
I think it helped that both of them were they weren't really doing anything with Keith, so they didn't really need to use Keith. At the time, and maybe he had a slight injury as well. I think it was Dijakovic. The
only thing I could see here with the Imperium remark is these two guys battling it out, and then them going after Walter because they're big guys. Walter's a big guy, and then being like whoever wins, being like, I'm coming to get beat by Walter because I don't see either of them beating Walter. Yeah. Still don't know who's next for Walter as far as defending that belt, but.
We should also be. I think next week we're getting Pete Dunne versus Damien Priest.
Yes, yeah, and I tweeted this. I was like, man, I really hope, as much as I love Pete Dunne, I hope they put Priest over because
it would definitely give Priest a rub if Dunne lost to him.
Yeah, I think he needs it if they're building him to be this actual credible big threat. It would be nice for him to go over, but I don't know. We shall see. He has who's. Because he lost to Riddle. But he was punishment when he lost to Riddle.
Yeah, he beat Lee.
Oh, that's right. I'll say he did beat someone.
Yeah, he beat Lee. Lee was the biggest name. Pete Dunne's the biggest name he will have faced.
Yeah.
When he faces him.
Yeah, so I hope he goes over.
Not that Keith Lee isn't it.
But he beat Keith Lee and then went back to like facing
nobody's,
like enhancement kind of guys, sort of deal. So we shall see. He's had some. I like him though. I wish he used the South of Heaven chokeslam. Like no one's really doing a chokeslam in WWE right now as a finisher anyway.
And he's a big guy.
He's a big guy, and it's a sit out chokeslam. It's sick, but. Anyway, that I think will wrap it up for this episode of Discover Progress. Of course.
Still no Tina Sabatelli.
Oh, jeez.
We're sad. You started it.
When did I start it?
You said you had something big to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't big. I said specific that I wanted to talk about.
Tina Sabatelli is big and specific.
Tino come back? No. To answer your question, no. Edge will probably return sooner than Tino Sabatelli.
That makes me sad.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Kick.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag Team Brace.
Team Knee Brace.
They're going to have... couple if
stay away from Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo. They'll tap you out super fast.
I mean, Deonna for sure is an armbar specialist.
Yeah, but she clearly knows submissions.
Yeah, but only the armbar.
I guess,
only the Fujiwara armbar.
She knows all of the armbars.
All of the armbars.
But her favorite
only
is
all of the Fujiwaras.
All of the the bridging one, the one where she sits on your head.
The disarmor Fujiwara armbar, the regular Fujiwara. Yeah. Anyway, the Project Champa. No.
That's a bridging Fujiwara.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to
think that's one of
the fairy tale ending is his.
Yeah, he's got like 6 Project Champas.
Right. Yeah. But they're 3 out of their 4 legs, if and when they team up, Team Kick, have braces.
Yeah.
Knee braces, which is sad.
People going to get kicked, though. I mean, it helps with the kicks.
I suppose.
Tegan knocks his knee in the back of the head with that thing.
Do you remember Rookie of the Year, the baseball movie?
Oh, yeah.
Where he breaks his arm and then the doctor fixes it and it's like super tight and he like whips like the fastest fastball in the history of fastballs.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing if those knee braces were just like tightened right up, like so that when they pull back, there's like a spring that boom, like whipped just like an
snaps
decapitating people with kicks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Tegan nearly does that anyways. So.
Yeah. It'll be fun. I hope they because here's the thing. When the women's tag titles were introduced, we talked about this, I think. They said they'd be defended on any brand. We have a number of tag teams that appear to be lining up on NXT with, obviously, Team Kick. And then we've got Vanessa and Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah. What was that? There was another one, wasn't there?
Chelsea Green and
Gianna Purrazzo. We just talked about them.
And then Shayna's Lackeys. That's the team name, Shayna's Lackeys.
Shayna's Lackeys officially. Shayna's Lackeys. Great. So I mean, I don't know.
NXT, new women's tag champions as well.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, I want if they'll ever bring that down. I mean, I don't, or if they just introduce one on NXT. Like, I don't think that NXT they don't need to, but they just seem to be building tag teams,
especially since they got a new belt. They just got they officially have the Cruiserweight Championship.
There are a lot of belts that have been seen on NXT.
Yeah,
since going to USA, because now you have the Cruiserweight, the NXT Cruiserweight, obviously the tag belt, the North American, the NXT Championship, the women's belt, and the UK belt.
Yeah,
have all been seen on NXT
within the last 4 weeks.
Within the last week.
It's true, actually.
because if you go from last Wednesday to this past Wednesday, you
saw them all.
Well,
we saw Undisputed, so we saw all of the main 3.
Yeah, but even just guys in matches, right? Yeah, because how many did we count? Yeah, because Roddy was in. Yeah, he didn't defend the belt, but he had a match this week. Yeah, so we saw all 6 of them. But anyway, like I was saying, this is going to do it for this episode. So you can find us wherever you find podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate it, review it. You tell all your friends. That's Apple Podcasts. That's Google Play. That's Spotify. That's YouTube, wherever. And then you can also find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Disc Progress. If you want to look at pretty pictures, you can go to Instagram. That's The Adam Show. If you want to argue with me over wrestling things, that's The Twitter Show. That's my show. So there. Go follow us. Be our friends.
Be our friends. Our bestest friends.
Be our friends. Be our friends. I don't know where I go from there. Anyway, that'll do it for this episode. So, bye-bye. Bye.